Angela Cartwright's tribute to her beloved Lost in Space co-star June Lockhart was both emotional and deeply heartfelt, marking the end of an era in Hollywood. June Lockhart, a timeless figure in American television history, passed away peacefully at the age of 100 in Santa Monica on Thursday night, surrounded by her daughter June Elizabeth and granddaughter Christiana. Her death, confirmed to be from natural causes, brought forth an outpouring of love, nostalgia, and gratitude from those who had the privilege of knowing her. Angela Cartwright, who played Lockhart's on-screen daughter Penny Robinson on the classic 1960s sci-fi series Lost in Space, shared touching words that reflected both her admiration and deep affection for the woman she saw as a mentor and second mother. In her statement, Cartwright described June as brilliant, witty, and endlessly curious. A woman who embraced life with grace and humor until the very end. She recalled how June's presence on set was magnetic, how her laughter would fill the soundstage, and how she treated everyone with warmth and respect, regardless of their role or status. Cartwright reminisced about the early days of filming Lost in Space, when she was just a young girl entering the unpredictable world of television. She said that June took her under her wing, offering gentle advice and motherly encouragement. June taught her the importance of professionalism, preparation, and gratitude for the opportunity to do what they loved. June always told me that kindness travels faster than talent, Cartwright said, and she lived that every single day. The two shared a close bond that extended far beyond their work together. Even decades after Lost in Space ended, they remained close friends. They often attended fan conventions, spoke at retrospectives, and shared private dinners filled with laughter and stories from their days on set. Cartwright said she always admired June's boundless energy, her curiosity about the world, and her ability to adapt to every new generation of fans and technology. She never stopped learning, Angela noted. Even in her later years, she was fascinated by space exploration, by the arts, and by the ways people connect. She was always asking questions, always seeking to understand. June Lockhart's passing, Cartwright said, felt like losing the heartbeat of a family that changed television. For millions of fans, Lockhart's portrayal of Dr. Maureen Robinson in Lost in Space was more than just a role. It was a symbol of compassion, intelligence, and maternal strength. In a time when women were often confined to secondary parts, Lockhart stood tall as a scientist, explorer, and mother figure all at once. She was calm and composed, even in moments of chaos, a reflection of her own grounded nature. June gave Maureen Robinson her heart, Cartwright said. She wasn't just acting. She believed in what the Robinsons represented: unity, courage, and love. Angela also spoke of the deep affection June had for her fans. She remembered how Lockhart would take time to answer letters, sign autographs, and listen to stories from people who had grown up watching her on Lassie or Lost in Space. She never dismissed anyone, Angela recalled. She made you feel seen and valued. To her, the connection with her audience was sacred. In her tribute, Cartwright painted a vivid picture of June's final years. A woman who remained vibrant, articulate, and full of humor. Even as age slowed her physically, her mind remained sharp. She continued to engage in conversations about art, science, and history. She delighted in sharing old memories, but never dwelled on the past. She always looked forward, Angela said. June often spoke about the beauty of reaching 100, calling it a century of discovery. She reflected on how fortunate she felt to have experienced so many eras of change in entertainment, from radio to streaming, and how she cherished the friends and colleagues she met along the way. Cartwright remembered one of their last conversations just weeks before June's passing. June had spoken softly, but with the same spark that always defined her, Angela said. She told me she wasn't afraid. She said she'd had the most beautiful life, filled with art, laughter, family, and love. She said she felt ready for whatever came next. Those words, Angela admitted, brought her peace. The mourning that followed June Lockhart's death was not just confined to her friends and family, but rippled across generations of fans. Social media lit up with tributes from actors, directors, and admirers who remembered her as a pioneer and a role model. Many spoke about how Lassie and Lost in Space helped shape their childhoods, how June's calm voice and reassuring smile felt like home on their television screens. Angela Cartwright acknowledged that impact. "She was everyone's mom," she said simply. "Even if you never met her, you felt her warmth through the screen." That's her legacy. Mourning was personal but filled with gratitude. She admitted that she cried when she learned of June's passing, but quickly found comfort in remembering the joy and light June brought to others. "I can still hear her laugh," she said. "I can still see her smile. That's what I'll carry with me forever." Angela shared that June's influence went beyond acting. She taught those around her how to live with dignity and joy. She was passionate about the environment, education, and the importance of family. She believed in nurturing others, Angela explained. That's what made her such a great actress, and an even greater human being. June Lockhart's century-long life was indeed extraordinary. She had lived through the golden age of Hollywood, starred in two of the most beloved family television series of all time, and earned multiple Emmy nominations for her work. But to Angela Cartwright, June was not just a star. She was a friend who made an indelible mark on her heart. "She was my TV mom, but she became so much more than that," Angela said. "She was my mentor, my cheerleader, my compass. I loved her deeply." Angela's tribute ended with a poetic message. Now she's truly lost in space, but not really lost at all. She's part of the stars she loved, part of the universe she dreamed about. Every time I look up at the night sky, I'll think of her and smile. In the quiet aftermath of June's passing, Angela Cartwright and many others who had shared the screen or a moment with her continued to celebrate her legacy. They remembered a woman whose artistry spanned generations, whose heart embraced everyone she met, and whose laughter echoed long after the camera stopped rolling. Angela described her death not as an ending, but as a continuation of a story that began long ago, one that would live on in reruns, in memories, and in the hearts of fans who will never forget her. For Angela, mourning June Lockhart was as much about celebrating her life as it was about grieving her absence. The sorrow was deep, but so was the pride in having been part of something so enduring. "June taught me that love never ends," she said quietly. "When you give so much of yourself to the world, you never really leave it. You just become part of its light." In that spirit, Angela Cartwright's tribute became not only a farewell but also a promise to carry forward the kindness, professionalism, and joy that June Lockhart embodied for an entire century. She will forever be remembered as one of Hollywood's most gracious souls, and her influence will continue to inspire those who were lucky enough to share her orbit. June Lockhart's long and remarkable life was filled with triumphs and iconic performances, but it was also marked by personal struggles, health challenges, and professional hurdles that tested her resilience. While the world often saw her as the poised and gentle matriarch from Lassie or Lost in Space, behind the Hollywood glow, Lockhart faced the same uncertainties and emotional complexities that come with a life spent in the public eye. Her story was one of grace under pressure, a woman determined to hold her own in a demanding industry while navigating the private battles that came with fame, family, and the passage of time. Born in 1925 to actors Gene and Kathleen Lockhart, June was practically destined for a career in show business. Yet being raised in a family of performers wasn't always easy. Her father, though deeply supportive, was a perfectionist who pushed his daughter to be professional from an early age. That pressure instilled in June a sense of discipline that would become both her strength and her burden. Even as a child, she struggled with the expectations placed on her to live up to the Lockhart name. Her parents were highly regarded stage and screen actors, and June often felt she had to prove herself beyond simply being their daughter. That pressure to maintain excellence would follow her throughout her life. As a young actress, June's early career appeared golden. She made her film debut at age 12 in A Christmas Carol, 1938, acting alongside both of her parents. But beneath the surface, June was battling insecurities. She once revealed that growing up in Hollywood meant constantly facing rejection and scrutiny about her appearance, weight, and performance. Casting directors were notoriously harsh, and even though she was a naturally talented performer, she often left auditions feeling inadequate. Those experiences toughened her, but also left scars that lasted into adulthood. In her 20s, she began working steadily in theater and radio, eventually moving into television, a medium still in its infancy. The shift from stage to screen brought its own set of difficulties. Television production was grueling, with long hours and minimal room for error. During her early years in TV, June battled exhaustion and anxiety, and rarely showed it publicly. She maintained her professionalism, always appearing composed, even when she was suffering from migraines and stress-related stomach problems that doctors attributed to her relentless work schedule. Her big break came in the 1950s when she was cast as Ruth Martin, the mother figure on the beloved family series Lassie. The role cemented her image as America's ideal mother, warm, gentle, and nurturing. But privately, Lockhart often struggled with that perception. She adored children and valued family, but she also wanted to be recognized as more than just a maternal figure. Playing the perfect mom on screen sometimes made her feel trapped. She once confided to friends that people expected her to live exactly like her television character, always calm, patient, and selfless. Off-camera, she was a fiercely independent woman who valued her privacy and freedom, traits that didn't always fit Hollywood's expectations for women at the time. Her marriage to Dr. John Maloney in 1951 was another area of conflict. While the couple initially appeared happy, their relationship grew strained due to Lockhart's demanding career and her husband's discomfort with her fame. They had 2 daughters, Anne and June Elizabeth, and for a time Lockhart tried to balance motherhood with her work commitments. She later admitted that the juggling act left her emotionally drained. Hollywood was unforgiving to working mothers, and she often faced judgment for leaving her children with caregivers while filming. When the marriage ended in divorce, she was deeply affected, but refused to let it destroy her spirit. The split was quiet and dignified, but behind the scenes it took her years to rebuild her confidence. June later married architect John Lindsay in 1959, but that relationship too came with its struggles. She wanted companionship and stability, but balancing her career ambitions with personal happiness proved difficult. Her second marriage eventually ended as well, leaving June to raise her daughters primarily on her own. Despite these challenges, she maintained a close relationship with both of her children, encouraging them to pursue their own passions without the burden of living in her shadow. Her daughter, Anne Lockhart, followed in her footsteps and became an actress, something June felt proud of, but also feared would subject her to the same industry pressures. Professionally, the 1960s brought new success with Lost in Space, where she portrayed Dr. Maureen Robinson, the intelligent and caring matriarch of a family stranded in the cosmos. The role gave her more depth than Lassie had, allowing her to play a character who was both nurturing and scientifically minded. Yet, even during this time, Lockhart faced creative frustrations. Television in that era often limited the roles available to women. Despite her talent, she was frequently pigeonholed into motherly parts. She longed to take on more challenging material, to play flawed, complicated women, but producers rarely saw beyond her wholesome image. As she aged, the entertainment industry's attitude toward older actresses presented another set of obstacles. Opportunities dwindled as Hollywood's obsession with youth intensified. By the 1970s, Lockhart found herself taking smaller guest roles on television, often in shows like Emergency and Petticoat Junction. While she remained grateful to be working, she privately lamented how quickly the industry dismissed seasoned performers. She often joked that she could survive in outer space on Lost in Space, but couldn't find steady work once she turned 50. Her health began to decline gradually in her later years, although she rarely spoke publicly about it. Friends noted that she remained active and energetic into her 90s, but suffered occasional bouts of arthritis and chronic pain. She maintained a strict wellness routine, walking daily and avoiding excessive medication. Even when she was diagnosed with minor heart issues in her mid-80s, she treated it with characteristic calm, telling friends, "I've lived through worse scripts." Her optimism carried her through multiple surgeries and hospital stays, though she preferred to keep those details private. Emotionally, Lockhart endured the heartbreak of outliving many of her closest friends and colleagues. She often said that longevity was both a blessing and a burden. She lost her parents early in life, her father in 1957 and her mother in 1978, and she missed them deeply. Her co-stars from Lassie and Lost in Space passed away one by one, leaving her feeling increasingly like the last link to a vanished era of Hollywood. Despite that, she continued to attend fan conventions well into her late 90s, drawing strength from the people who cherished her work. June also wrestled quietly with periods of loneliness. After her marriages ended, she never remarried. Though often surrounded by admirers and colleagues, she lived a largely solitary life in her later years. She once remarked that she had found peace in solitude, that she enjoyed her